Welcome to the Podiatry Profits Podcast, where you will discover how to get more patients and multiply the profits of your practice with minimally invasive foot surgery, proven marketing systems, and ethical influencing to your patients. And now, your host, board-certified podiatrist, best-selling author, speaker, and founder of TJ On Coaching and Consulting, Dr. TJ On.
Hello, welcome everybody. This is Dr. TJ On. Welcome to Podiatry Profits Podcast episode 26. In this episode, I'm going to talk about fear. You know, that's very fundamental emotion, right? You are scared, you're afraid. Why that fear is happening, physiologically, and how they influence your decision making and your progress, your goal achieving, it affects a lot in your everything, productivity. So in this episode, I want to talk about the fear. Sounds good? All right. It's very primitive, one of the primitive emotions, right? Primitive, what I mean by is it's coming from, originally, the real fear is from reptilian brain that fight or flight. So genetically and million years ago, well, thousands of years ago, if tiger is chasing after you or the other tribe is trying to kill you with arrows or hammer or knife or sword, your primitive response to survive, right? To keep your existence, your life, you need to run. You need to run for life or you need to fight, correct? Life or death. We have different types of hormones, right? I kind of already talked a little bit about that in the overwhelm episode previously. So the adrenaline hormone and cortisol hormone, which are not really good if it's too much. Perhaps a little bit of it kind of potentially trigger your action, right? Not to feel fear, not to face the failure. Those hormones help you move toward one direction, which is potentially take action. So a little bit of low-level stress might not be such a bad thing. But if it gets too much, right? The real fear should happen when you have that true life or death, but our brain doesn't know because that's how our DNA is ingrained as human species. And to make it worse, what human can do where most of other species cannot is that we can think. That's the problem. We can think and add more triggers to create more emotion. Does that make sense? So you are using your brain, your thoughts, to make it kind of worse and like creating phantom, like not real, but almost like you're creating avatar of you rehearsing the future of things that haven't even happened, right? So you are afraid of failure in the future. So you're not thinking in terms of now, but you're thinking in terms of the future, which even hasn't happened. So this is so your fear is not real fear. I'll give you an example. Let's say simple example, you want to opt out of Medicare, okay? which I did, and which many clients of mine did, and they feel so liberated, feel independent, feel total control. Let's say you have to really imagine with me, okay? Think about you're going to opt out of your Medicare in 30 days. What do you feel? Or what are you thinking? Usually, emotion doesn't happen if it's really physical danger or physical incident. If you really observe yourself, it drives from thinking. Thinking creates emotion. Oh, let's say you opt out of Medicare in 30 days. What are you thinking? Are you thinking that you are going to have sudden drop of patient volume? You are going to have sudden drop of revenue? You are going to start thinking about how you can pay your employees next month? So these are all thoughts that potentially happen, right? You know, doctors are so analytical by nature. Most doctors, again, it's kind of generalized idea, right? A lot of doctors I talk to during strategy sessions and my clients when they enroll into my program, most doctors are usually operating by logics and analytics, right? They like to analyze, think deeper. So, you know, typically you start thinking all these potential effects. So in terms of cause and effects, right? Cause, opt out of Medicare, effects, you're going to lose all this. Profit, revenue, how you can pay your employees, etc. So thoughts generate emotion of fear. So you need to be able to observe your pattern. That's number one. Step one, you need to observe. You need to be an observer of your thinker self. So there's a thinker self and your true beings, you know. Again, I highly recommend you to read the book, The Power of Now. It influenced my mindset quite a bit. The Power of Now, written by Eckhart Tolle, or Eckhart Tolle, how do you pronounce? So when you start identifying yourself and separating yourself from thinking self to conscious mind, true being, you realize you have two kinds of yourself. And when you start observing your thinking body, that's the one that creates all these emotions. Okay, so you got this step one when you feel fear. Then that fear has some kind of limiting beliefs. So you need to bust that limiting beliefs. I'm going to lose the volume when I opt out of insurance, Medicare. How true is that? Is that absolute true? Really, I mean, you're a logical person of logics. If you logically, let's analyze it. Is it really true, ultimate truth, that if you opt out of Medicare, you're going to lose volume? You are only thinking in terms of Medicare. What if that creates more time for you to reinvest in other area that you can bring 2 to 3 times more profits? What if you reduce volume, but because of volume of Medicare, because of that, you can do more marketing on other insurance plan which pays you decent, like PPOs, certain PPO plans still treat doctors nicely, that you can focus how you can become one of preferred providers of that network and bring more volume of those qualified high ticket type of patient volume. Am I correct? So I'm not, I'm not making this up. You cannot limit yourself by those limiting beliefs that you need to really analyze it and bust it. And you'll realize once you start doing this exercise, again, it takes only 3 to 4 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes tops. Per each limiting beliefs, you can really sit down and ask yourself this question: is this belief really true? What kind of evidence am I saying it with? Those evidence usually happens to be not true. Okay, so here's a mindset that's hierarchy-wise. You have a mindset, and then underneath there's a beliefs, right? There's a lot of limiting beliefs that confine you in the shell. You need to be able to bust the shell, break the shell, breakthrough. That's what people call breakthrough or epiphany, right? You need to be able to break through that shell and expand yourself. You don't realize how big your potential is. And then you're limiting yourself in that shell because you're surrounding yourself with those limiting beliefs and all this nonsense, untrue evidences guarding those each limiting beliefs. And fear of unknown, fear of the future, that's one of them. You need to go specific fear and what drives that fear, and then what limiting beliefs drives that thoughts, and then what evidences are there to support the limiting beliefs, and then you can start busting them one by one. Is that absolute truth? Again, 99% is not. There's always better way to handle that. There's always the other side of the coin, like Taoism. There's a light, then there's darkness. Because there's darkness, there's a light. So there's always pros and cons. You heard this, right? I don't want any of you be paralyzed by those limiting beliefs and untrue evidences. So again, when you feel fear, first observe yourself, what thinking you are processing in your brain. And then observe that emotion. Writing down those thoughts. Again, I highly, highly advise you to write those down. And then what you're going to do, you're going to write down limiting beliefs that supports that thoughts. And you're going to write down evidence that supports that limiting belief and start busting them. Once you do this exercise, whenever you feel fear, you'll find yourself at peace, hope, and suddenly those fear is just a nonsense, mindset block that'll hold you inside of that eggshell. So get out of that eggshell, bust those beliefs, and then the fear, you'll still see it, you'll still acknowledge it, but you're not going to be paralyzed by inaction. You're going to take action to get out of that shell, and you'll expand yourself. Does that sound good? All right. So I hope this episode helps you to get out of how to deal with that fear. And if you like this episode again, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast channel. Give me some 5-star reviews. That means so much to me, and that keeps me going. And again, the bottom here below this podcast, I put some helpful resources and links, so make sure to check those out. Sounds good? All right, I'll talk to you soon.
You've been listening to the Podiatry Profits Podcast with Dr. TJ An. To find out more about Dr. TJ An or discover how you can grow your podiatry practice, visit drtjan.com. Or you can also get a free copy of Dr. An's best-selling book, Opt Out: How to Take Back Financial Control of Your Private Clinical Practice Without the Hassle of Insurance Companies. Just go to optoutbook.com.